Alrighty, so you should be able to see my screen, and what you're seeing is the Query Plus homepage, and this is essentially where all of the reports are housed. So whether they are the launch pads that come with the product or any reports that you guys create, as you move forward with the product, they'll all be held here. In the lower portion of the screen is where pretty much everything is housed. So they're organized within individual groups. For instance, we have dashboard reports, we have activity reports, our provided launchpads tab, data extracts, and things like that. We also have individual tabs. So for instance, we have Dale's reports, we have Heather's reports, and this ties into the security aspect of the product as well as just simple organization as well. You can create individual tabs for individual users. You can create them, account-based, line of business-based, commercial reports, personal lines reports, things like that. And then you can set access to these various tabs to each individual's login. So if you only want one person, a particular person to see marketing reports, they'll only be able to see the marketing reports tab, and that's fine moving forward. Up in the top right, we have our recently opened section, which are the 10 most recently opened reports. So let's say you're working on something in the afternoon, and you log out of Query Plus for the day, come back the next morning, you can quickly access it up in the top right. Over on the top left, we have our favorite section, which any report across any of the tabs you have access to can be defined as a favorite report simply by clicking to the left of it down here, and it pops it right up into that top section in alphabetical order. Removing a favorite is just as simple. Just click on that little star again, boom, removes it from that section. Over to the left, we have 3 buttons. One of them starts the new report process. The second one is our Manage Reports section, which I'll pop into briefly. And what this is this correlates to that main page that we were just looking at. So you can see all of those tabs that I was kind of hovering over. And this is where you create the new report group. So if you have, your own specific tabs that you want to create, you would just do that right here. Over on the right-hand side, you have some buttons that are geared more towards the individual reports within those groups. So you have your backup reports, which just takes a bulk copy of all of those report templates and saves them to a network drive somewhere. However, as long as your Query Plus database is backed up on SQL Server, with your typical nightly processes, you won't ever have to do any of this. You have your delete reports, which does exactly what you would think it does. Click on a report, hit delete, boom, it's gone. And probably most importantly, and the number one reason why I show this screen is because of the import and the export buttons. So I know that you guys are working out of multiple offices, and I don't know how your database structure is, if each individual office has their own database, but this allows you to actually share report templates. So if someone that's using a completely separate iteration of Query Plus for Epic, has a report that they've created, and maybe they want to share it with someone on the West Coast that's using a different Epic database, you can just select a report, click the export button, and email it away. Again, it's only the template, none of the data goes with it. So, that's able to be imported into the product and, run against that database. This also helps in regards to support. So let's say you have a question on a report or something's just not working right, and you reach out to us for some assistance. Most of the time we'll ask you to export the query that you're working on. That way we can pop it into our system here, run it against our database, and make adjustments, tweaks, things like that, and run the support process a lot more easily without having to constantly dial in via GoToMeeting. We can work behind the scenes more seamlessly.
Hey Ashley.
Yeah.
Sorry to interfere. This is Kiran.
No
So
problem.
last time when we had the first initial call, we asked specifically to connect to the Epic database. So, and I believe you are currently connected to it. Can we first start with how to connect to a data source and then create any reports? Like how are these connections made through
Sure.
QueryPlus? Can you start from there?
Sure. So during the installation process, part of that installation process is going up into this utilities and then database settings piece. And so right here, up in the top portion is your actual QueryPlus databases. So last time I was showing you QueryPlus for AMS 360. This time I'm showing you QueryPlus for Epic. So I can actually toggle between two different QueryPlus systems. You guys will more than likely only be using just the QueryPlus for Epic, which gets input right up here. So this database referenced in this top portion is part of what's included in your installation, in that you attach the database to a SQL Server instance. It's going to be called QueryPlusEpic, or in my case, it's called QueryPlusEpic 2. And you connect to that via a SQL authenticated account. I'm using the essay. However, you can create a specific SQL account for your QueryPlus database. Down in the lower portion is where you actually connect to your Epic database or BDE. So again, it utilizes, the server name and instance where the Epic database is housed, the database name of that Epic database, and then again using the SQL authenticated connectivity. And adding a new one, you just click on the Add New. You give it a name. So let's say you have multiple Epic databases. You would give it a name right here. Type in that server name, database name, username, and password. With the Epic database, since it is only reading, you can create a separate SQL authenticated account that only has read access. The one up top for the QueryPlusEpic database will need full read-write privileges. Over on the right-hand side over here, you can actually select which databases particular users have access to. So if you want the admin to have access to all databases that you have attached, you can do so by selecting the name from the drop-down and hovering and clicking on the multiple databases right there. If you want particular users to only have access to one account or a handful of databases, you can absolutely do that as well. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. So this right-hand side is a security access for QueryPlus, right?
Correct.
You're explaining? Okay, got it.
Alrighty. Yeah, so once you're connected, it brings you right into this screen, and it kind of picks up where I, began the demo. Okay, so
did you already choose to connect, or it's like as soon as you define the database connection, it connects automatically?
When you log in to QueryPlus from the actual home page, it has the drop-down option of which database to connect to.
Okay.
Yeah. But the database settings I was just showing you, we set that up together during your QueryPlus installation, so we assist with that.
Got it.
Sure. All right. So the third button here, and this is our newest feature that we're actually starting to roll out, is what we call our Profit Center, and it's business intelligence. So I'm going to click on this little button, and what it does is it pops up this second window, and it has dashboards that have been created, and you can actually set some of those to be favorites. We have two sections right here. The favorites are up at the top, and then down beneath that are all of the dashboards that are accessible. So for instance, I have an expiration report. As I click on that, it's going to run that dashboard and show me the interactive data for all of that. So it's drill down, it's live. There's various types of charts. So with this one, kind of demoing all of the different types of charts, and there's far more available as well. You do have the option to put in, just a simple columns and rows item to view that more detailed data. You have your filters available, so if I want to see a particular producer or producers, I can click on these right here. It's going to update all of that data accordingly. You can easily toggle between multiple dashboards, as we call them. So I clicked on that little pullout. It's running that report down here. It's letting me know it's running. And here we have some new business-based reporting as well. Over here we can see the number of policies per account, our new business count. We can see our commission broken out by line of business in a pie chart. And again, business intelligence is a little different from just standard reporting because it is a little more abstract, where some person wants to see a bar chart, others might want to see a line graph, or, some people might want to see pivot tables and things like that. So this is all open source. You can take what we have provided as, again, like a launch pad and go in and modify that. And I'll show you that a little bit later. So I'm going to close out of that. And now I'm going to move into the actual reporting piece of Query Plus. And now we've kind of seen the intro and the business intelligence. So as you work with the actual report, so whether you're starting from scratch by clicking that new button or you're working off something that's already in Query Plus, it's going to bring you to this page right here. And the only difference is that if it's an existing report or a launch pad, it's going to have some selected fields already chosen for you. Again, everything's open source, so you can add to this. You can remove fields that have already been selected. The goal is to make this true ad hoc, truly customized to your agency. Taking up the majority of the screen right here is your available fields. So like Alan mentioned earlier in the demo, we've gone through, we've mapped a number of the EPIC fields. And we have in our first column the field name, which I tend to refer to as the friendly field names. So these are pre-appended with names that correlate to the section in EPIC where the data is coming from. So you'll see what appears to be, a lot of duplicate information, but then as you read on, okay, client account, business contact, last name, license date, license state, so on and so forth. Over on the right-hand side, we have some descriptions for many of the fields. And then over even further to the right, we have the source table and column names for where these fields are coming from out of EPIC. So you can scroll through, pick fields, or you can utilize our quick filter feature. So if I start typing policy, transaction, I can see that it has begun to filter, my field section down to something a little more manageable, everything containing the word policy transaction. You can change how this filter operates by clicking on that little square. It defaults to contains. However, you can change it to, exactly have to equal what you're typing. Contains starts with, ends with, whatever you so desire. You can filter on any of these 4 columns as well. So if I want to go into this one and type in date, I've now applied 2 filters, everything that contains policy transaction, and their description contains date. We've also added in our view mapping feature, which any field that has this beige shading to it, if you click on that field and then click on this view mapping button, it brings up a screenshot of the EPIC interface and a listing of the fields within that screenshot. And then it also gives you a path to how you navigate to that section of EPIC. So you can confirm that the field that you're pulling is what you expect to be pulling. There's a lot of places for a lot of data to be, a lot of things named very similarly, and so we wanted to try and make it as easy as possible to help you be confident in the data that you're pulling. So it's almost acting as a data dictionary. I'm going to close out of this. Adding fields is as simple as double-clicking on it. Pops it right over here to the right-hand side. Like I said, you can remove fields simply by clicking on them and also utilizing the arrows right here. So instead of just double-clicking, I could always, click on a field, click on the arrow pointing to the right. So you have your fields and you have any filters applied. You can also, if you're working off of something that's already established, it's probably going to have a filter or two applied just to make things a little more manageable. You can also apply additional filters, change all of the filters, remove all of the filters if you so choose. So I've clicked on this little funnel button. That pops open what we call our filter wizard. And right here, it's just showing you that same list of fields that we have in our selected field section, and they're all available to be filtered on. So right here, my first field, policy detail number. If I come over here to the right, click the drop down, I can choose the criteria on which I'm going to filter on. So maybe, contains, 58. I can add multiple layers of filtering by clicking on this third drop down and choosing the and or statement. So contains 58 or begins with A. You can continue adding filters or you can clear them all. Currently, I'm clicking on this expiration date field, the policy expiration date. Right now, I'm currently filtering for the next X months. So date filters are actually pretty cool within Query Plus because we have a lot of kind of preset options for you. You can see that the drop-down is a lot longer, and we have a lot of X number of items. So there's last X days, next X years from now, next X weeks. This allows you to choose and define a number. So maybe I want to say, everything expiring within the last. Actually, I want to go into the future since it's an expiration report. Next X number of days, everything 45 days out. So this is going to automatically update that date range for you instead of having to define it every time you run the report, especially if it's something you want to kind of streamline. So if it's an expiration report, you're going to run it, every week or every month. You can simply, from the home page, right-click and click Run, and it'll execute and export out. Or you can actually schedule it via our report scheduler and not have to worry about even touching any of the filters because it's all predefined. Just like the additional filters, you can add as many iterations as you need. So maybe you want everything for the next 45 days, or maybe everything that expired within the last week. You can clear individual filters by clicking on the little red X and keep one of those if you so choose. And again, you can clear all as well. I think there's only a difference between the detail number or character-based fields and then the date fields. Premium or any monetized fields, you have your greater than, equal to, so you can set criteria like between, if you want to see everything with premium between a certain amount or with premium larger than a certain amount, you can absolutely do so as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and do next month, maybe 5 months, and close out of here. And before I hit preview, I want to kind of take time to point out the crystal ball right here. And so what the crystal ball does is it gives you a number of rows that are going to return in your report based off of your current filter and field criteria. So right now with everything that I have selected, I'm going to get around 1,050 results. This updates whenever you add fields, remove fields, make changes to the filters. So if I were to come in here and change the 5 months to 9 months and click close, the number has gone up by about 100 approximately. It's a great companion as you're modifying and building reports. It lets you know if you're going to get 2 million records with having probably 0 to few filters applied. And it also lets you know if maybe you went a little crazy with the filtering and you're going to get 0 records. So before you hit the preview button and find out you have nothing there, you can quickly glance at this and it'll let you know what you're going to return. So with that being said, I'll click on this preview button.
Very cool.
And all of the data fields that we've chosen have now, produced and filled with the actual data. It's in columns and rows, what everyone is used to seeing. We have the reason why we call this the preview screen is because you can move fields around, click and drag. You can also filter on any of the fields via the little funnel buttons. So for instance, this estimated premium field, you can see a lot of them are kind of blank at the top. But if I'm looking for a particular premium, I can go down, click on that, scroll over, see, all of that additional data. You can also do groupings within here. So let me just go back and clear this filter. And maybe I want to group by a particular, line of business code. If I just click and drag that up into this gray header, I can see it's now grouped them by the line of business codes, and it gives me a little count next to them. And I can actually expand those to see the data underneath those groups. You can add multiple groupings if you'd like. If you want to pull my client account name, I can see my breakdown within each one of those now. And again, it's just a way to kind of audit your data, especially if it's your first run, to kind of see how it's coming out. Data is only as good as it is entered or downloaded into your system. It goes back to that whole junk in, junk out methodology. So we want to make sure that you're confident that what you're getting out is what is accurate and what you expect. So you know that you can go in and if, I have to make a change to something, it's simple to go back to your field screen, make a change, run the report again. And it runs relatively quickly, within, a second or two. Whether it's 1,000 results, 80,000 results, it's pretty much going to run within the same amount of speed. So you have your data, everything looks good. Now it's time to kind of get it out of Query Plus and into others' hands. Up at the top, we have our export button. This allows you to take the data out to either XML, either iteration of Word, whether it's just the XLS or the XLSX option, and also CSV. It exports almost identical to how you see it here, columns and rows. It's not locked down, so you're not utilizing a read-only copy. And we also have a report designer. So the designer allows you to actually create a nice template. So you kind of set it up one time, and then as you get new data each time you run the report, you would just run it against the template you already established. And the report designer is very similar to Crystal reports or Access reports. It utilizes band features over here that do various things. You have your data set right here where you can see all of the fields that are in your query results. So you can pull over, my data band. I want to see my detail number, expiration date, client lookup code, and I'll throw a currency item in there. And as I do that, let me make this a little larger. It has populated that data band with the data source. This operates very similar to how Query Plus does in that you can preview and then go back to your building. So I can see, I want to change my date format, and maybe I want to apply a grouping to kind of get the data more isolated. Click that home button. It brings me right back to this home page. I can come in here and maybe group it by those client account codes, the lookup code. And I'm going to just pull that lookup code field right up here since I want to group based off of that now. My expiration date, it was including the time, so I just want it to be the date. I'm going to set that format. You can see that a lot of the settings up here in the ribbon are very similar to the Microsoft Suite as well, so it's a little familiar. The borders and shading is all very similar in Excel. And I'm actually going to throw the account name up there too, since, why not? I'm going to format my premium into currency, so I get my dollar amounts. And then I'm just going to kind of pull these in so I don't have as wide of rows. And now, let me just give a little shading here to help differentiate. I hit preview again, and my records are going to be grouped by those client accounts. I can see right here. And I can kind of scroll down. And again, this is kind of, a rough iteration of what how a report building would be. This actually includes a wizard when you go up to the File and New. And you can choose the report wizard, and it walks you through step by step to create a template. And then you can kind of use what they give you and customize it moving forward. This is a great piece that's included with Query Plus, and what we actually do with your Go Live is we save this for a second time with your training. So your first iteration of training will be done solely on Query Plus, and then when you're ready to actually utilize this feature, we'll set up a secondary training with you. That way you're not trying to, absorb everything all at once, and you're just inundated with so many things you can do. So I'm going to close out of here. And then I'm going to take us up to our report scheduler. So everything thus far has kind of almost led us to this point. And the report scheduler is truly fully automated reporting. Any report that's currently residing within Query Plus or something that you just created, 5 minutes ago, you can select it and click that Add New button. It pops it right down here into the scheduled list. And then it's pretty much just up to you to, set the settings within this light blue portion. So the report name is as is, and then if you have one of those design templates, you can choose it from the drop-down. And then you have your output file path. So this is where it's going to save a copy of the report when it runs. Most agencies kind of set up a network folder for the Query Plus reports, and then you can set up subfolders within there if you so choose. But that's what the output file path is for. And then you have your printer. So if you want reports to automatically print to a network printer, which some do, many do not, you have the option here to choose from, anything on your network that it's able to scan for. You can leave it blank though. And then in this next column is more of that time setting. So I actually set up this report last year in February, and it's set to run weekly. So down here we actually have our next run section that's letting me know, hey, it's going to run or it did run today at 6 a.m. It's a 24-hour format, so if I want it to run at 4, I would just change that 0 to a 1. And you can also have whatever frequency you want. Right now this report is set weekly. However, you have plenty of options if you want the report to only run once, hourly, daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. All options here. And in the event there is an option that you don't see that you would like to see, just let us know and we'll pop it in here. I know that originally hourly did not exist, but we had a client request that as an option and we put it in for them. File format. So this is how the report, in which format is exported in. So you have your CSV, XLS, PDF, also the XLSX option, and XML. If you have a report designer template, you can run it through that, and it's called the Stimulsoft Excel option, where it'll run it through the defined report that you built, and then still take it out to Excel. So it gets all that formatting and summations and things like that. But I'll just stick with Excel. Active just allows you to disable a report in the event you want to skip a run or two. And then your output too. So this is how it's actually kind of distributed. So again, if you want it to automatically print, you would select the printer option. If you want it to only automatically save to that file path, you would choose File. But if you would like it to automatically email to particular people, you would choose the email option and choose from your email recipients right up here. So right now I have 2 users in my master list, which you would manage via this email list button, and just input those email addresses. And you can choose one recipient, you can choose multiple recipients. It's up to you to pick and choose whomever will receive the report. If you have multiple databases, you can choose between those right here. I can run this report for one, I can run it for all. And then just hit my save button and away we go. This runs via a Windows service that is typically installed on the server during your installation, so it's only needing to be installed in one location, one machine. Runs completely hands-free. It just kicks off every hour, looks to see if there's anything within that window that is scheduled to run, and then automatically runs those reports and sends them wherever they need to go. All right, going to bring us to our home page, and then I'm going to touch upon the BI once more. So up via the File menu, we have our Business Intelligence File Manager, where if you click that, it allows you to come in and select your report group that has the report you want to create one of those dashboards for, or maybe you want to, modify an existing report. You would simply select the report name right here, and then again, if you're going to modify a dashboard that's already in existence, you would select it and then click Open Existing Report, or you can start fresh, open a blank template. You can have multiple dashboards from one query, so you can have different iterations. So I'm just going to open up the existing expiration report. And it brings us back into that StimulSoft product that's geared more towards the business intelligence this time. So instead of having bands and different types of options on this left-hand panel, we actually have business intelligence objects that are able to be chosen from. So like I mentioned, all of our business intelligence dashboards are open source as well. So if you don't want to see a pixel chart like I have right here, you can click on that and either remove it or change the type of chart it is. Again, you have plenty of options here. Pivot tables. If I go into the edit right here, I can choose pictorial and maybe change that to a column. Get the data looking in a completely different way. Again, plenty of options here, and a lot of it is kind of just click and see how it looks, and if it looks like more like what you're asking, you can click the preview button and kind of get a live feed of how it looks, how it feels, how it operates. Everything is editable. You can come in, put in a title, you can change the color scheme, the sky's the limit. You can truly customize these dashboards to what your agency wants and needs. You can also pull in data from multiple data sources, so you're not just limited to the query results data source. So over here on the right-hand side in our dictionary section, I can click on that, right-click on that, and then choose New Data Source. And you can choose from any of these options right here. So if you have maybe a legacy database somewhere, maybe you have a completely different database or a spreadsheet even that you would like to include in a dashboard, you can absolutely do that. One of the things that I really like about this dashboard is when you go into the Profit Center, where you actually can view these, is you can keep this window open on another screen if you so choose, and continue to use Query Plus. And then, if you need to kind of quickly reference something or check up on, the statistics throughout the day, you can absolutely do that. So it can kind of hang out to the side and away you go.